All right.
So, Kat, you have disappeared from the video screen. Is that your intention? We don't see you anymore.
You are not. I just screwed it up.
Streaming.
No, well, here. Well, Kira, you can stick around here. We're gonna switch to mushrooms. Mushrooms. See, guys, I don't really know what I'm doing. Let me disclaimer for everybody. So Lisa and I don't know how to do TV shows, and we bought this thing, and this is a budget operation, so we could only afford one seat, and it's my seat, so that's why it's screwed up all the time. Welcome to Dr. Natanya Wachtel, who is I feel like Natanya, you should just introduce yourself because you do so many things.
Okay, thank you for having me. I love this didactic everything, the conspiracy theories.
Everything.
There's a lot to unpack. I feel like my thing is kind of nerdy, but it's about something funky. So maybe it's that intersection of nerd is cool now, which I'm so happy about because I've been a nerd a long time. So whatever, I do stuff, but I'm really excited, evangelical level excited about some developments coming from old school pharma in sort of the mental wellness, longevity space with psilocybin. And full disclosure, this is being recorded. I'm going to say I myself was trepidatious about being public about my interest for a little while, because the same was for medical cannabis, because I didn't really know anything about it, but I thought it was cool. But I also thought, there's stigma, or I'll be seen as someone into drugs. And, but I'm I am into drugs. I was launching Cymbalta. That's a drug, so it's really silly to me that, or maybe this isn't a good example, but my mom, pretty much on her deathbed, had 17 pill bottles to help her with extreme stomach pains and nausea, whatever. It's an oncology situation, right? My sister brought her some THC, is legal. And my mom's I don't do drugs. And we're you're doing 7.
You're doing drugs.
You're doing drugs.
This is natural. It'll help your feel better. And you won't not even need some of those just to be more comfortable. And,
nice.
It was sad, but for 1 week, she was super chill. It was the last week, but she was super chill. So, it kind of that was the way I came into it. And also thinking it's not my area of expertise, so I should not say anything. But I'm the nerd thing, voracious reader, and started to go down, pun intended, I don't know, the rabbit hole, especially because of the conference it's called Wonderland. But also I was a nervous Nelly because I was afraid to take it myself, which just kind of seems hypocritical, but I've always been really sensitive to anything, again, drugs, over-the-counter medication, cold medication, right? So I was just this is amazing. But I was launching a drug or helping work on a drug for PTSD. It was the first of its kind last year.
Oh, wow.
And of course, I'm consuming all of this research around PTSD and therapies, and it keeps coming up in all my searches, psilocybin. Then, I couldn't help looking because of my interest in mental wellness or whole person health. I also see longevity, all this stuff. And I'm this is legit. And then essentially, I guess I was just on the cusp of, again, now nerds are cool. Mushrooms are now cool. If you go into any store, there's and my kids know I love it. So now I have mushroom pocketbooks and notebooks and everything. So it's getting pretty mainstream. And interestingly enough, the red mushroom with the white dots is poisonous typically, so that's just funny to me that's the one.
You mean the image that you see everywhere? Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So basically, I'll say this: I was going to share 5 quick facts if I could, because I thought they were kind of cool.
Please. That's very organized. Go for it. Amazing.
Oh, I'm the nerd thing. I have a little thing. So
I love it.
So first of all, I'm assuming your audience knows, and some people were shocked to know, that mushrooms are not plants. They are fungi, and fungi is an actual distinct category.
Sorry, have you seen The Last of Us? They're alive, obviously, as we know.
Well, okay, right? So psilocybin is sort of a category that's kind of called magic mushrooms colloquially, right? We all know that because of the chemicals within them. They have these psychoactive agents, and they can induce a euphoric rush, and potentially hallucinations, although that's the dosing is a thing there. So let's just keep that, for the next for the facts, which are fun. Okay. So many cultures for hundreds of years, there are theories about, it's a little bit pedantic, called the stoned ape, about how we actually evolved our brain with the occipital bun, that bump in the back of your head, that grew in an exponential amount of time in terms of evolution averages around the time when our ancestors, Homo habilis habilis, whatever, were walking through an area where there was a lot of mushroom infused dung. Anyway, they ate a lot of them and the brains grew. And also, the perception changes. And all of a sudden there was a aggressive tool building, culture and community changed in the way people lived and partnered and had animals for domesticate. All that happened around the time that they started eating the psilocybin. It's not a one-to-one thing. It's not a perfect story, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, so outside of the hippie stuff, right? So there's a lot of treatment and a lot of study now about how mushrooms, psilocybin specifically in the category, and there's several of these kinds of that, but can actually help with anxiety and depression and trauma. And the reason that matters is, unlike alcohol, sorry y'all, because I don't drink, I eat my calories. It is the only thing you can put in your body, not THC even, that actually stimulates and grows neurons and neural networks. It's actually feeding you because, it helps you rot when you die, and it also feeds you at a cellular level. And so I just find that incredible as a brain nerd, right? You were saying about the brain thing. Of course, I wrote that down.
Yeah, of course. Hidden Brain, amazing podcast. Yes.
Hidden Brain.
Okay. So legally, magic mushroom, psilocybin, is only legal as a treatment in some states right now. So the government stuff.
Oregon, and what's the other one? It's Oregon and somewhere else. Not California, I think.
No, and not New Jersey. Well, I'm in New Jersey. They're working on it. I believe New York. Because there's
Is it Colorado? Did they decriminalize
Colorado?
Colorado. Yeah. Carrie's telling us Colorado. That makes sense.
Carrie knows. She knows.
For a moment. I actually did know that. I'm just So the thing is, because there is the hallucinogenic effect, although there's a hallucinogenic effect if you have a surgery and you get cocaine, whatever, right? You can, I'll just save my issues.
Absolutely.
Of that. It's not the drug, it's how you use it. But because of the fact that in, the time of, when LSD and all that stuff and Timothy Leary and the war on drugs, it got really outlawed. And there was trials back then with Johns Hopkins, with major institutions looking at how this can help people. In a singular dose in a singular session with a clinician involved, meaning there is a therapeutic aspect of dealing with the trauma with almost like CBT, with words, talking about working it through. But because your mind is now ready, your receptors are ready to kind of forge a new path, it's kind of like getting you a new OS. And for someone, a soldier who's had 10 years of restless nights with nightmares, trigger responses to any loud noise, just horrible existence, to have one night take this thing, have a weird experience with their doctor that guides them through, address their trauma, face it, finish, and go the next day, be able to sleep through the night and feel like a complete lifting of the trauma. Wouldn't we want to figure that out? I don't get it. But, we talk about, that's the thing, is about the money. That's another thing, right? Who makes money on it and all that.
Just so everybody knows, Natanya is a former pharmaceutical marketing vigilante. She has joined the other side.
So what I would say about all of this, though.
Sorry?
No, what I would say about this is that obviously, we're just dealing with a huge amount of, very pointless / potentially connected to the direction of pharmaceutical drug development and approvals. Backlash against a class or a couple of classes of drugs or medicines that obviously should be explored further. The problem I have with this is that, just like with cannabis, it would be, there are plenty of pharmaceutical companies that could easily, convert and start to use elements of psilocybin and already have started to use different types of cannabis, THC, CBD, all of the others in drug development, in therapeutics development. it doesn't make any sense, right? If there's something there, there's no reason to have some weird stigma against it. I understand they're in these classes of drugs. It doesn't make sense. They obviously have enough evidence to show that like these drugs or these elements of drugs can be used in, legitimate therapeutic purposes. So why block it? It's long overdue in this country for cannabis to be approved for usage like this across at a federal level, not just at the state level, at many states level. Same thing for psilocybin. It's the same idea. I truly don't understand it. It's a weird thing to block ourselves from doing, clearly.
Yeah, and the thing I wanted to, in my 5 facts, so the big fact is coming, right? No, that it's not.
Okay, big fact.
I don't know who's listening, but in my experience, most of us have either currently or in the past or in the future will have some challenge in a mental health way. It doesn't have to be, bipolar disorder or major depressive disorder, but something where you might need to work through some stuff to get to being okay. So that's what is like, it's sort of known for the frontier, which, is what we were just talking about. But regardless, if you don't have some stuff, in general, because of that neural stimulation, that cellular regeneration, and then those neurons wanting to grow and make new connections, which essentially is more like brain power, they basically boost memory for anyone. And so that's where, like, I think, and we talk about microdosing. And microdosing is, again, not to be too technical, there's a medical dose, which is an amount that does give you, like, and I've personally not done that. I'm not ready for that personally, because of my other stuff, but I'm like trying to put a toe in the water. But I have been reading about and have colleagues and clinicians and some who left their traditional practice because they were so inspired, honestly, by what it did for their patients. But then there's all these other tests. They're looking in Alzheimer's and dementia, which, again, if you don't even have Alzheimer's and dementia, if you're like, aging, as some of us are, you're thinking about your memory and your function and your recall. And so this is basically like a boost to that. And at a microdose level, most people, a microdose, again, there's a range here, but around 250, like the smallest amount, you don't feel high. You're not going to have visual experiences and that kind of thing. But you are ingesting a bit of mushrooms and some people feel something and some people don't at that level. But the point is the receptors are now on for that. So it's what you put in. So anyone, I'm like the evangelical, all of us should take the mushrooms, but really, and you remember everything from this show. No, but it's a great way. So
I feel like it couldn't be like probably on balance, it would be fine if everyone did. But keep going.
I mean, if you want the nerdy part, it basically boosts brain activity. Okay, it synchronizes that neural connectivity in basically unconnected areas. As our brains develop as we age, around 24, the brain starts to kind of like get solidly in its way. At 36, you're pretty much set in terms of like your automatic processing and who you are and the person that you are. But that doesn't mean it can't change. And the thing that's so great about mushrooms is there is a response, this neural connectivity in octogenarian, in 80-year-olds. So you don't, at any age, you can effectively have cellular response that is like a young person. How cool is that? If that's not the founding of youth.
Seems reasonable.
I mean, I'm talking to you, Reishi. That's another mushroom. It's not psychedelic, but I think mushrooms in general have a lot of potential. And we're just now using our Western tools and clinical endpoints to kind of validate what other cultures have been like, for hundreds of years, right? The folks who live the longest.
But can you talk about the health tech implications? Because I know there are a number of companies in the psychedelic tech space. I've been familiar with Osmind is that you see the name Osmind? I don't know. And there's a couple others like that. Any of you are watching in the health tech space?
That's a great.
That are using psychedelics?
So there's a couple things here because of the legal issues. And again, this is, to me, follows a little bit the arc of the cannabis story. In terms of, in certain areas, you can be really public. I know in certain areas, there are clinicians who do, and it feels kind of like, not culty, but like this underground invite only situation where they will do treatments with people and it's like cash pay or free so that people can get treatment. And sometimes we're talking about terminal cancer patients who take this to help with facing their death. Okay. So like, it's ridiculous that they're not allowed in whatever state they live in, but that's why. On the digital side, to me, again, this is an uninformed personal opinion, like I'm an amateur here. So just want to put that disclaimer out there. it's a combination in terms of actual health effect that is about mental well-being. Aside from the things like just longevity, you need the other pieces like the talking part or the workshopping part.
Right, like all the structure and the therapist, the structure.
It's basically like a supercharged therapy session, right? But it also is more open-ended with more possibility development, more like resilience, growth mindset type of stuff, but forcing yourself to imagine the worst scenario, the best scenario, all that kind of stuff. So I believe that digital tools, personally, can be a way for people to potentially microdose or dose at home who have maybe gone through some criterion, because there are not enough practitioners. Most of the places are full, and
like in everything in behavioral health, right?
So that's what I think. I think it can be a combination, as well as just like, it works if you work it, or remote monitoring, RPM, CCM potentially. Like maybe the sessions are with the clinician, but you have it as part of it. And as of now, because of the legalities, most of the other kind of block and tackle mental health groups are kind of like, we're not touching that, so they're standalone. But my hope is there's a little more integration, because back to the whole, we are one body system, not just a bits of parts,
Yeah. Love that.
And the same issues apply also to health data issues, Kat. This is also the same thing, right?
Tying it back to health data.
You want to do this because you're like, I have PTSD or I have some other serious trauma, and there's an opportunity here, might be legal in your state. But of course, you don't want to do it in a way where your health data is going to be captured and then shared, just the same with any other sort of sensitive health data issue. I was just talking, in fact, on that stage last week, and got a question from behavioral health providers about, the ability of health data utilities to appropriately manage behavioral health data. And I said, here's the challenge, and I don't want to understate it. I want us to not have stigma around behavioral health and behavioral health data. But at the same time, it's very naive to say, well, it's fine, like just do it. And it doesn't matter if someone knows that you are in treatment, in ketamine therapy treatment, or in psilocybin therapy treatment for PTSD. There are very real legal issues there for people still today. So it's really tricky, and it really brings that issue up to the forefront as well around how we deal with behavioral health data. So it's really
absolutely,
and that's watching it,
and that's why I'm sort of not expecting the moon on a plate here. But like I'm going to my first like woo. I actually was like, Kat, I think I'm going all in on the mushroom thing. I'm just like feeling like the tug. I
what's the name of the conference?
Wonderland.
Listen,
Wonderland.
That is a name.
I'm into that.
That is a name.
And it's like a real conference, like it's a real medical, like the CEO of Cerebral stuff, like it's real, but it's
nice.
Very avant-garde, and it's about, all psychedelics, which I only really have been looking in psilocybin myself personally, and mushrooms for other things, because I also turkey tail and oncology and that kind of stuff. So to me, it's like fungi, become a fungi worshiper. And that's partly because Kat's always posting cute pictures of her with her mushroom foraging. So I was like, hey, guess what?
Follow me on Instagram at Kat McDavitt. Lots of mushroom pictures. I'm not tripping on any mushrooms in these photos, but
but that's even that I always say that too. And I'm like, well, I've never done a medical dose. Like, well, who cares if I have? And I feel sort of hypocritical. And when I went to try to do my microdose, I waited till all of my children were in camp. Like no one was home for days. And I like had friends and a doctor friend, like in the movies where the girl is like getting ready to lose her virginity and she wants it perfect.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Rose petals on the bed. Like I had to do that because I was so afraid, like how will I react? And it was fine.
Oh my God.
And it was amazing. And, I chose something really simple at first. It was a language I wanted to get further. I was already fluent in, but I wanted it to flow more naturally. And, I decided to grab all of the books I had in my house, which also was like a cookbook and like random things in that language. So I read all that and I went to sleep and I woke up and it was like fluid. And I had a mic.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Hold on. We got a few questions. It's hard because I got to read over on the LinkedIn. So a couple things. So Nadine made a comment.
There's no way to follow this.
Yeah, I know. It's Carrie. So Nadine is saying that mushrooms are being used for alcohol use disorder treatment. This is very cool. Melissa noted that New Jersey, Natanya, your home state, has locations that allow you to do it under observation. Very cool, very progressive. Pretty sure in red state Georgia, we're not doing mushrooms yet, but maybe in 40 years, I don't know.
So they bind to those serotonin receptors, and that's why, because a lot of substance use disorder, and I'm lumping together alcohol, opioid, even cigarettes, like anything that's a compulsory calming. This serotonin receptor binding, it's like chills you out, right? Basically. And then you don't have that impulse to like that. I mean, that is that you like that was science, right?
I love science. Everybody knows that. I'm very practical. I love practical things. Okay, hold on. Grace noted she's a huge advocate for use of mushrooms in oncology and end-of-life care. And then one question from one of our speakers, Carrie, who benefits from limiting access to mushroom therapy? And then we'll switch to climate.
Yeah. So just really quickly, I think you said it, Lisa, really well when you're talking about so pharma in the loop, how does it work? So I say this, and it's really respectfully to big pharma, because I still have friends and work.
Friends and clients, paychecks.
I don't think anyone would argue with this statement, which is the pharmaceutical treatments that we have today for mental health do not treat the condition. They help manage the person to function in our society. So they might dampen some of the extreme mania or mood swings, or help boost you so you can get out of bed and take a shower. But they don't actually cure you or help you go past it, really. Yeah. Like, they help you go through the motions that you then, and that's why there's also often combative or combinative care with other kinds of things, and even things like forest bathing and whatever, in addition to all kinds of therapy or tapping or cognitive or whatever. So I think instead of looking at it as competition, it should be looked at as adjunctive, right? Or like a family of products that you can use together in different ways. And maybe for someone who is not able to be, let's say, stable in their life, like daily function, getting out of bed, talking with people, doing a job if you have it, caring for people if you have children, or whatever you have to do that you can't do. So if you need a medication to help make sure you can do that is a compound, I'm not saying don't take that personally, but I think if you want to heal your trauma, if you want to feed your cells with something that wants to eat the bad stuff away and help you be vibrant, then psilocybin can be additive and it can be used in conjunction. But right now, pharma is worried because a lot of this data kind of makes it seem like, well, then you don't need your SSRIs or you don't need those things. And I think it's a little bit there, as well as the cost right now. I mean, they can be grown by anyone.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of dosing required to have a very profound impact. So it might be one dose forever, like one treatment. It could be one treatment every 6 months, depending on, again, what's going on with the person. So I think that's where we have this sort of battlefield. And also stigma, like you said, Kat.
Yeah. Stigma, but I would say it's actually going back to health tech again, right? There's also you can also compare it to the situation happening with the GLP-1 inhibitors, with the Ozempic-like drugs. Of course, someone can just take the drug, but it's much better and more likely to be covered by employers and health insurers if you're doing it as part of a program that's most often these days like health tech enabled, right? Yeah. Where you have something, where you have remote providers, or you have remote monitoring, you have something that supports that.
Health coaching.
Just the drug on its health coaching, whatever it is. And usually those are technology enabled or delivered. It's not like hard health tech. It's like technology enablement platforms for these kind of clinical delivery in certain areas. Same thing for this, right? I think they should really think about what it takes to deliver an entire therapeutic regimen and not be so focused just on the compounds or whatever it is, and really lean into that as we get more into personalized medicine, as we get more into different modalities of treatment and things like that. So I'm excited. I love it. And thanks for sharing with us. It's so great.
Thank you. Hope it wasn't boring.
Natanya is all over the LinkedIn, so just go like message her, do all the things.
I have one last fact, because it's again if it's not for mental health, so anybody can boost your brain, as well as there are studies now about athletic performance, which is really cool, I think, in an area again unusual, throwing it out there. So whatever you're into, we got a much for that.
Awesome. Thanks, Natanya.